How's it going, Stout Man? Coming back at you again today, and today I'm going to flip my hat around and we are going to talk horror movies. Because October is not just the month of, the championship series, the postseason in baseball, and the World Series. It's also the month of horror movies. The month of creepy crawlies. The month of Halloween. And it is a fabulous, glorious, beautiful month indeed. October is probably one of my favorite months of the year. And I like to watch me a lot of creepy, scary horror movies this time of year. And that got me to thinking that there are a lot of horror movies in my collection that are very underrated. They're either underrated or underappreciated entirely. So I thought, why not do a video about the most underrated horror movies in my collection, and about what I feel are some of the most underrated horror movies out there, period. So here we go. I'm probably going to turn this into a series because I found so freaking many of them, alright? But, yeah, maybe a couple of videos I'll do on this subject. 2 or 3? Yeah, 2 or 3. Maybe 3. 3 videos. I just decided by looking at the pile. But yes, that way I have enough time to talk about them and I'm not taking up too much of your time. You know what I mean? Per video. So without further ado, let's just get started, shall we? Let's talk about Silent House. This is a movie that Sean introduced me to a few years ago. He had me watch this with him. I believe he had me watch it with him. I can't remember how long it's been, but it's been a while. Probably shortly after it came out, 2013. Something like that. But anyways, the cool thing about this was that I had never heard of it before. And before I had even seen this one, my good friend Sean Zernizer was telling me that this is actually a remake. A remake of what I think is a, I want to call it a Spanish horror movie, but it's not really a Spanish horror movie because it was made in, I think it was made in Argentina or something like that. So, they speak Spanish, but that doesn't necessarily make it a Spanish horror movie. It's just, yeah. Yeah. Anyway, the Argentinian. The Argentinian horror movie has exactly the same name and exactly the same premise, and it's even shot exactly the same way. So I am really interested in checking that out, and I might actually do that this year. But before I did that, I checked this out again. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I showed you that I picked this up from, what was it, FYE? I think I got it from FYE for a couple of bucks, actually. It was only like $2 or $3 or something like that. So it was a steal of a deal. And it came with the slip cover. So, pretty good deal. Yeah, I really like Silent House. And I just recently watched it with my good friend Brandon, Skin Slip, for the first time. He had never seen it before. And I kind of had to force him to watch it because he wasn't really interested at first. But after watching it, he said, yeah, I really like that. Because it's really good. The whole thing about this movie is that it is Cinema Verite. It feels like found footage for people who are only really familiar with found footage, because it's very much a lot of following people around and a lot of shaky cam and all that stuff, right? But it's not necessarily found footage because they're not people holding cameras or anything like that. You don't know that the cameraman is there. All you know is that you're seeing shaky cam and you're following people around a house and all that stuff. And the really cool thing about this is that they disguise the cuts well enough that it just all feels like it's all happening in real time. And that's, of course, the point. It's supposed to be a story told in real time, so everything you see in the movie is just one event leading to another event leading to another event, all told in real time, and you're watching it all unfold in real time, which is really cool. And they have a lot of clever ways of editing it all together to make it feel like it's all a one-shot movie kind of thing. And there are movies out there like that, but Silent House is not a one-shot movie. It just feels like it, and it's edited together well enough that it definitely will make you think that it is. I'm sure there are a lot of people fooled, and that's a testament to how well this movie was shot. Now, Brandon was complaining about some of the cinematography, but I honestly think that a lot of it is just really excellent. Some of it's a little unmotivated. There are some issues here and there, but for the most part, it's a really well edited, really well shot movie that is worthy of your time. It's definitely a great, scary, creepy horror movie, and even at the end of the movie, when I'm sitting here like, don't you get it yet, Brandon? Don't you get it yet? He still hadn't quite figured it out yet. So if you want a movie that like really keeps you guessing until the very end, and leaves you asking questions and trying to figure out everything that's going on, I really love movies like that, because that means that I get to chew on it for a little while, and I like chewing on movies and thinking about movies and all that. So if that's your kind of thing, then Silent House is right up your fucking alley. You definitely need to check it out. Next up, we have Dylan Dog. What is it? Dead of Night? Yes, Dead of Night. Dylan Dog is about is he a bounty hunter? I think he's a bounty hunter. No, he's a supernatural detective. Why did I think bounty hunter? Anyways, supernatural detective here. And his job is to, find the spooky baddies in the world and get rid of them, essentially. And he's got his friend by his side, and his friend just so happens to be a zombie, and it's just... It feels... If you listen to the premise of the story, it's just... The premise is goofy. But as you watch it, it works so fucking well. If you've ever seen Supernatural, it has a very strong supernatural feel to it, and it's very much a horror comedy, which is something that I really enjoy. There was something about this that really felt like, I don't know, it called back to, in a lot of ways, like the same kind of style of horror comedy as maybe like Evil Dead or something like that. And again, it felt kind of like supernatural as well. I really dug this movie more than I thought I would. It really gets shit on a lot, and it really does not deserve all the hate that it gets. Dylan Dog is absolutely a hilarious, fun romp for people who like horror movies. So if you're into the horror movie thing, then you're going to get all of the references, and you're going to enjoy the fuck out of this movie. So I highly recommend it to horror buffs out there. Honestly, if you didn't like it the first time, I gotta give it a second try. You gotta, because honestly, it's really, really good in a lot of ways. I mean, it's goofy in a lot of ways too, and definitely like cheesy in a lot of ways. But it's the good kind of cheese. It's the kind of cheese you want. So, yeah, Dylan Dog, give it a second chance, man. Next up, we have Hell. I'm going to take you to hell with Hell. Came with the slipcover. No special features. This film has been released under the name Apocalypse at other retail locations. Now you know. Hell is a really cool post-apocalypse movie. Yeah, it's more of a post-apocalypse than a horror movie, but it has enough horror elements that I definitely consider it a horror movie. I really loved this movie. It is the perfect kind of post-apocalypse movie. In the movie, of course, it's like a post-apocalypse where global warming has really taken hold. Global climate change has really taken hold, and it's so hot that there's not really much water anymore, and there aren't really many water sources anymore. Everywhere you look is a fucking desert practically. It's dangerous to be outside for long periods of times. it's just really well done. The world building in this movie is very well done, very well thought out. I mean, as you open into the movie, they start out in a car, and the car that they're driving in has all the windows essentially boarded up. They're not really boarded up, but they have like cardboard covering the windows, with like even the window for the front of the car. Sorry, my brain is failing there. But yeah, windshield. Thank you. Even on the windshield, they have cardboard covering it up, except for a little hole so that the driver can see where he's going. And with the exception of that little hole, it's really dark in that car because they have to protect themselves from the sun, and the only way they can protect themselves from the sun is to get cardboard all up in all those windows, tape up all the windows, keep the sunlight out at all expense, at all cost. And they find unique ways of doing that while being able to also drive. And it's very dangerous what they're doing, and they sometimes find themselves in trouble because of that. But you know, it's also very dangerous to be driving in a car with a lot of windows in this world scenario, where the sun can and will bake you, and within minutes you could be dead. It's very, very dangerous. You have to be very, very careful in this kind of a world. And I felt like they did a really good job of setting up that kind of world and what it's actually like. So, you know, as it continues on and the story builds up and you see what it's really like, I mean, you definitely get like a sense like The Road. If anybody's seen The Road, definitely feels like The Road, but honestly I felt like the world building in this was a little bit better than in The Road. And eventually it breaks down into a story that kind of feels almost like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I don't want to give too much away, but I'm just going to put it that way. And yeah, very strong homage to those kinds of movies. And it's just really well done. You definitely have to see this movie. I don't know why people haven't seen this movie, other than the fact that it is a foreign language film. It's where was this made again? I can't remember where this was made again, but it's not in English. It's not in English. You will have to read subtitles if you only speak English. So, yeah, it's one of those things, I think, where a lot of people just don't want to be bothered with reading subtitles, but you owe it to yourself to give yourself a chance to watch this movie. I promise you the subtitles will not be too annoying with this one. There are not too many people saying too many things at once and too many scenes or anything like that. So, you know, if you find yourself where you can't read too much at once, or things are going by on the screen too often and you don't get all the story and it gets frustrating, I can understand what that's like. I know what that's like. And it happens very frequently with, like, you know, Japanese movies in particular. But this one is not like that. The script is written well enough that the spoken word is not, there's not too much of it. You know what I mean? So when they do speak, it's usually important stuff, and it's usually very concise, which means it's easy to read. So even if you don't like subtitled foreign movies, you definitely need to check this out, because there's no excuse. You need to check it out. It's awesome. Anyways, let's see what else we got here. I've kind of talked about Jeepers Creepers before. If you want to check out my video about that, I did a video about that a while back, talking about why I like the Jeepers Creepers franchise. But again, this is very underrated, underappreciated, and I have talked about why I feel like it's a little underrated, underappreciated. maybe has something to do with the director, Victor Salva, and people don't like him because of the stupid choices that he made in his life, the wrong, fucked up choices that he made in his life. But, you know, despite that, these movies are pretty damn good. This character is pretty damn creepy and awesome. I still love the Jeepers Creepers movies. So that's all I'm going to say on those because I did a whole video on them. Next up we have the Lengel Ears, which I know it isn't a movie. The next two here aren't going to be movies. They're just going to be series, miniseries, Stephen King miniseries. At that. But yes, the Lengel Ears I liked, even though everybody else hates it. Now I understand that the CGI is horrible. It's just fucking terrible. But the actors, they get so many great character actors in this. I mean, they got Al from fucking Quantum Leap, and they got Balky from Perfect Strangers, and none of these are their real names, mind you. It's just their character names from their shows. But no, they got a lot of great. They got a lot of great character actors to portray the characters in this movie, and it worked out, or not movie, but series, and it worked out really fucking well in my opinion. And I really like the story. I feel like the story is really fucking cool. And yes, it's more of a science fiction than a horror movie, but there are definitely horror elements to this. And I love how there are some really over-the-top performances in this movie, or this series. I keep saying movie, but yes, the series. If you've seen it before, then you know that the actors are really hamming it up at times. They're really going all out with it when they probably shouldn't and probably don't need to, but it's just, it works because it's either it's going to be entertaining because it's hilarious, or it's going to be entertaining because they are just really trying to sell this character for more than the character's worth, you know? I mean, I don't know. Sometimes I like those kinds of things, and Lengel Ears is an example of me liking that kind of thing. And I definitely like the hook in this story. I love the plot to this story, so this series is right up my alley. I love the Lengel Ears, even though it's not perfect, even though it has a lot of issues, it's still, you know, one of my favorite horror series or horror-related series out there. And yes, like I said, speaking of Stephen King series that don't get enough love or respect, The Shining, the miniseries that came out, when did it come out? 1997. I believe this was made for the Sci-Fi Channel, but it might have been for a different channel. All I know is that it aired on the Sci-Fi Channel quite a bit, and I think that's where I discovered it. I absolutely loved it. It tells more of the story than the movie by, what's his face? Fuck, Stanley Kubrick. There we go. Tells more of the story than the movie by Stanley Kubrick, which, of course, the movie is excellent. The movie is definitely not underrated, you know. But if we're talking about underrated stuff, people just completely forget that this even existed. And it tells more of the story, and the actors do a pretty damn good job, and it's just as creepy, honestly, as the movie. So I don't know what to say. I really like this interpretation of it. I like the fact that we get to see more of the story, and yeah, I have to say that this is, you know, I don't know if I would say it's my favorite interpretation of the story. I would just say that when I'm watching the movie, the next thing I want to do after I watch the movie is watch this series because, you know, it tells more of the story, and because it does a pretty damn good job of telling the story. Almost as good a job as the movie itself. So, yeah, I mean, that's all I got to say about that. That'll do it for this video. Next time, we'll talk about a few more horror movies, and, well, they'll all be, yeah, all horror movies from this point on. I'm no more series. But with that being said, that'll do it for today, and I'll catch you later for some more underrated horror movies. Catch you later. Peace.